Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. And the newest project is a 1985 TRX250. I bought this in Ulster County, New York, and I picked it up about a year ago, I think, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I remember it being winter, January, February time frame, and I think he had it for sale for $100 and change, and I think I paid less than $100 for it. If anybody really cares, they could go look. When I got it, it came with a few spare parts, and we'll look at those. It came from a kid who kind of worked on it as a project. I believe he brought parts of it to Bosie's to work on and so forth. And you know, some of the spare parts explain it, right? Like, he has a nice new headlight here, but he also has the old one with the cord. This is a new dashboard. The lights aren't installed. Can I show you? Yeah, you can kind of see one of the sockets here. So he bought a dashboard. He bought a replacement light. He's got bulbs here that are loose. This looks like it's off of a 200S or something, so I'm not quite sure what the story is on that. This is not the seat that goes to it, the Scotch tape seat. This actually goes to a different bike, but I just kind of threw it on here just to show that it did come with a seat. It has duct tape fenders. Actually, from 100 yards, it really doesn't look too bad. The back of it's not bad. You can see it's got a little trouble going on there, right, both sides. It did come with a 7/16 China wrench in the trunk. But at least it came with the trunk. A lot of times this stuff is missing. It also has both lights in the back. The Kickstarter is off. I don't believe I did that. I think it was already off. You can see the brake appears to be disconnected. The back tires are new. The front tires, though they're worn in the center, actually look like they're in halfway decent shape. Now, the story on this thing is frustration. Like right now, I think I could show you. I don't know if you guys could hear that. The engine is turning over. And he told me he put in a new piston and rings and bored it and did the valves, put all kinds of money into it. And when he finished, it'll upshift, but it won't downshift. I mean, there's some other kiddie things wrong with it, like, you know, those aren't the right bolts on the cover. It smells like gas, which isn't a good thing. At some point, this thing was used as a plow. Let me show you. You can kind of see some homemade brackets here. And this bar here, you can see the rope on it. I had to put the rope on it. When I was towing it up to the garage here, that bar harpooned into the ground. And I was using Big Red to tow it. And I got to tell you, Big Red stood up on its back legs like an angry horse. Almost dumped me. Yeah, I mean, it just stopped dead. I couldn't believe. And once again, I was towing high. I was roped up high on Big Red's luggage rack here, and it just. And I was pulling low on this thing because I was trying to unload the front wheels. So when this thing stopped, that thing just stood right up on me. One of those One of those fill the depends moments, eh? Anyhow, what else could I tell you about this thing? The reason why I kind of picked this one to work on is it has shifter issues, which kind of brings me inside of it, and it kind of makes me look through the remainder of my motors to figure out what I'm gonna do. I might have an entire motor to swap on this thing, but I would really like to fix this motor. I like to kind of keep things the way they were. I mean, swapping seats, no big deal, but I kind of like to keep the motors with the motors and so forth. This thing did start, it did run, it did move, and it did upshift. I think I upshifted it, unfortunately, to fourth gear, and as I was trying to move it around under its own power back then, I think I fried the clutch, right? There was some snow on the ground, and kind of pushing it through the snow wasn't your best idea. You know, I hate going back and forth between all-terrain vehicles, but on the Astro, I ordered the starter gears because these starter gears sound like you're grinding coffee beans. So I ordered starter gears for this, and I also have a flywheel, and I don't know if you guys can see here. There's a gear on the inside of this. That's the one-way clutch. And if I can ask a question, Dave, you probably know the answer to this because you went through these problems on one of these engines. This one-way clutch, I know works for the electric starter. Is it also, I know there's a pile of gears in there. Is that also the same clutch that does the Kickstarter? Because what's interesting on this one, the Kickstarter slides, spins, doesn't engage the engine, however you want to look at it, but it does not, but the electric starter works. And I just wonder if the electric starter spins it so much faster, right? Just, it starts so much quicker than the Kickstarter that it manages to grab where the Kickstarter moving a little slower, it kind of makes it go by. And I mean, that's just a theory off the top of my head. If somebody really knows what they're doing on these things, the early flywheel for these guys was an ND, and I'm not sure who made the stator. Might be ND also. And Honda had some trouble with them. They kind of discontinued them. So if this thing was made in '84, it might have an ND flywheel, and let's call it an ND stator also. If it was made later in '85 and for 1986, it has a Mitsu, I believe that's how you say it, MITS something U or something like that, Mitsu, which seems to be a little better quality. Now, I'm not sure if the starter clutches are the same between the two. I seem to have a pretty decent pile of ND engines that are torn apart, which should be no surprise because the stators were no good. The starter gears had a tendency to strip out, drop in there, get grabbed by the flywheel, chew up the stator, right? So they have problems. That one, as a matter of fact, over there is an ND, and it's in halfway decent shape. I have another motor in the basement, or two motors in the basement. One of them is a Mitsu that's fine, and then an ND that's all torn up. We can probably show you that. So anyhow, yeah, I was just going to ask for anybody who knows right off, when you use the Kickstarter, is it using the same one-way clutch as the electric starter, or does it have some other affair for turning the engine over? Yeah, the 2 engines I have, that guy, well, the 3 engines I have are torn apart. So I could see the Kickstarter moves a bunch of gears, but before they get to the flywheel, 2-way clutch, one-way clutch, they appear to be missing something, so they're not engaging that. So I'm not quite sure how it works. That's what I'm asking the question. Anyhow, so I do have the parts on order for this, so we'll get back on that when they come in, and this will be our next project. What I'm gonna do is, just for completeness, I was told some work was done on the engine, but this thing also sat for quite a while, so the valves could be in a little bit of trouble. I'm not sure what shape I left the carburetor in. Given that gas valve is turned on, I'm thinking the carburetor is full of nastiness at this point. Especially if it was, I don't think it was last year. I think it was the year before. So I think it's been, this has been sitting around for 2 years. It has been in the garage. It has been kept halfway decent, so maybe we'll have some success with it. I'm trying to, besides working on these things, I'm trying to make a little bit of space. I could, if this place was on fire, I could actually get out that back door. Maybe wounded, but I could actually do it. That's Big Red over there, so I could just open up the door and drive Big Red out, you know, start it and drive it, which is where I'd like to get, actually, for all this stuff, right? I'd really like it so that I could just use it. So that one's ready to go. Obviously, the 300 4Trax 300 4x4, that's in the lower shed, and it's running and ready to go. I moved the hauling cart, you know, the homicidal hauling cart, the one that tried to take me out. I moved that down there. Big Red didn't go in and out of there all that easily. That guy runs, and it comes in at night, and that Big Red runs. That's the U-Haul. So that's unfortunately outside. So I'm getting a lot of this stuff running. I'm just running into space problems. I'm trying to hold my expenditures down because I really want to get that carport project done this year so that I can move some of this stuff to storage outside. And once I do that, life should be better. I do kind of like to show some video for those of you who actually like to go garage sailing or actually like to look at this stuff, because I think some of you, you know, kind of look at the background and find that interesting, like, wow, you have a lot of crap in there, Harvey. So anyway, this is next, and I'm glad I got it up here, and we'll go through the whole process with it, everything from checking the compression to, you know, trying to get it started. I guess we're gonna have to start it on jack stands while it's in gear. We'll try to start it that way. Yeah, that's weird. Normally when they do something like this, I don't know if you guys watch Ed Moore, Rusty Restorations. He just worked on a Kawasaki with a stuck shifting situation. The way the shifter's moving, I think it might have something to do with the clutch, right? As you move this shifter to, well, the engine's running, so that you don't grind gears or bang the gears up. It disengages a clutch also. So this is doing two things. It's disengaging a centrifugal clutch, and it's also moving forks on a shifter drum. So given that it moves one way and not the other, that's what I think its problem is. So back in the day, quite honestly, if you're only spending, call it $100 on this thing, I think it was 75 or 90. I think I'm just going to call it $100 all-terrain vehicle. So for $100, I think it was well worth it. There's a lot of parts here. I mean, the tires are worth the first $100 before you get to anything else, right? The dashboard, they go for 50, 75, you know, if you get the key with them. So from that point of view, I think it was a good deal. But from the point of view of does it need work? Yes. And one of the other problems with this guy, it's heavy. It's very heavy. It's got to be a 500 pounder. I mean, and all of 500 pounds. And to work on it, to get that motor off, you got a lot to take apart. I think all the plastics, yeah, it looks like all the plastics are going to have to come off. And then I'm not quite sure what the story is on getting the drive shaft apart. I've seen them, they just slip out, but I'm not sure all that needs to go into taking that apart. Obviously the motor mounts, they're no big deal. And then you got to lift up the engine, the 250 ES motor or TRX250 motor, all the same. 250 SX motor. They're heavy, you know, major part of 100 pounds, plus it's in a frame, and you know, you really can't easily use a cherry picker to do it. You gotta kind of help it out onto the floor before you pick it up with a cherry picker. All right, that's why I need an assistant. I need somebody to help me pick up and move things. All right, folks, sorry too much chatting on this video. I want to thank you all for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember to keep your feet down, your heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.